ground zero. Energy medicine, frequency, meditation, vibration, biohacking, cold plunges, breath work. This next to 10, 15 years, I can see these as being huge trends. The easiest, most efficient place to play in that story is to be an educator and an aggregator of content to support people in making better quality decisions. With access to good quality information, people invariably make better decisions for their life and health. That's really what we desire to do at Gaia.
Welcome everyone to this episode of the Liberty Ventures podcast. My name is Alexander Coben, founder and CEO of Liberty Ventures, and glad to be speaking to all of you from Necker Island, Richard Branson's island, for the first Principled Business Summit. And thrilled that James Colquhoun and I get to have a chance for this conversation. James, just your story and what you're doing with Gaia is so inspiring. It so fits in with what we're doing with Principled Business and Liberty Ventures. I want to start by actually just giving you a chance to share your story with everyone. Before we talk about Gaia or anything else, what's your background that's led to who you are today and why you're doing what you're doing?
Well, I think like many entrepreneurs or people that started a movement, it began with desperation and tragedy. My father was really unwell and he was on a lot of different medications, and he was visiting the high priests of medicine and asking for their counsel, and it kept resulting in more medications and he was not getting better. 6 years of this cycle of more medications, more side effects, more illness. My partner and I were at the time very upset with this because we were at the same time studying nutrition. We developed this real passion for nutrition and natural medicine, and we could see that there was so much that could be done using natural therapies, and yet he wasn't being offered this. And then it really exposed us to the medical industrial complex and the incentivization of our healthcare or disease care system. And we were at the time trying to convince my father to get off these medications. And of course, he's like, why would I trust you? You're not a medical doctor. You're my son. And this inspired us to interview world-class experts that were medical doctors, that were researchers in the space, that were talking about the power of using nutrition and natural therapies to heal. And so we started interviewing these experts, took in the footage, and after getting access to the footage, it really started to shift his belief systems about his body and his capacity to heal himself. And this was a huge turning point for him. And within 3 months, he was off all of his medications. He'd lost 50 pounds. He was back to normal. And it was this radical turnaround. And this created a real spark in my mind that led to this connection between the power of education to shift beliefs, which can shift choices, which can shift the outcome of people's lives. And that footage ultimately became our first documentary, which came out in 2008. It was one of the first health documentaries on Netflix and went into 14 languages and was the foundation of the last 16 or 18 years of building companies in health and transformation, and ultimately now Gaia.
So what I love about that story, and this is what so many people misunderstand about business if they haven't been an entrepreneur, is that the motivation was not from the outset, make as much money as possible. It's there's this problem, this deeply personal problem that you wanted to solve that happened to lead into a business as a way for you to help other people solve the same problem.
Absolutely. And I think that this is the purpose, I think, of principled business or conscious business. It's impact oriented. Profit is important. But one of my friends that I've interviewed on this topic, he talks about 4 Ps. There's people, planet, purpose, and profit, and how can we appeal to all of those? But as a principled entrepreneur or a conscious entrepreneur, I think you start with the impact goal. It's like you see a problem that you want to solve and you go about solving that problem, and it just happens that we live in a capitalistic framework, and the most efficient way to solve big problems in the world is using that framework.
It creates a sustainable solution to it. Instead of just wishing something was different, also it requires you to go out and actually say, I'm going to solve this. I'm going to come up with the solution for others.
Yeah, and in a way, like most of my businesses have been self-funded. And so once you're profitable, you can fund new ventures, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where your reliance on capital is diminished. And I know that many businesses do rely on venture capital or angel funds, and the current business that I'm running is a public company, so that's open to public market capital. And these can be more efficient ways to leverage into growth, of course. But I mean, there's no discouragement from starting small. I mean, You can be surprised what you can create.
It seems like a lot of entrepreneurs these days think the goal actually is to just go and raise money from the outset. That's the measure of success. How much money can they raise? Not enough for thinking, how do I bootstrap this? How do I self-fund it from the get-go? So when you were doing that with your earlier businesses, what lessons can you provide to others for how to even think about doing self-funding for bootstrapping instead of taking outside capital?
Well, all of my lessons have come from mentors, and I would say make sure that you have great mentors that you look up to in your space. And for me, the way I assess a mentor is someone who's deeply connected to a spiritual practice or a way of living, and someone who's well esteemed at business. And they're quite rare to find, but when you do find one, grab onto them tight. And one of my mentors in this space, he said that it was a Chinese proverb teaching that he parlayed to me, and it was that you need just enough skills, not too much, not too little, just enough people, not too many, not too little, and just enough money, not too much, not too little. And you see often that overfunded ventures get loose with capital, burn rates super high, and that's a big issue for companies to sort of cross that transition point into cash flow positive operation, And also on the opposite end of the spectrum, you see companies that are potentially capital intensive that are underfunded. But it's about finding a beautiful balance point, and you actually don't want too much money because it helps you to find ways to be inventive with your use of capital and resources. And I find that for the majority of my career, having self-funded my own ventures, it's meant that it's my capital, it's my sweat equity, and the way that you allocate capital, which is ultimately the job of any head of an organization as capital allocator, you do it in a fashion that is supremely accretive to value and impact, and you're very hesitant about spray and pray approaches to taking a venture to market. So I think it can teach discipline, and I would definitely encourage entrepreneurs to keep good tension.
I love what you just said there in describing it, keeping good tension, because that tension pushes you to do better. It forces you to always be on your toes, but also just stay connected to everything that you're doing. It has a lot of different interpretations.
Yeah, absolutely. Just enough people, just enough skills, just enough money. You get too much of all of those, you have a problem, And balance and tension, you want both.
That's great advice for entrepreneurs and from your early startup days. As you said, you're now CEO of a public company and recently so, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Congratulations on that.
You.
For anyone who's not familiar with Gaia, can you tell them a little bit about what you're doing, and I'd love to hear how it's going so far.
Sure. So Gaia is really an extension of one of the companies that I built that I sold to Gaia, which was a Netflix for health and wellness concept called FMTV. We built that up to 1,600 titles, 900 hours of content. We had apps across all platforms, and we merged that in with Gaia to create the world's largest transformation and conscious media company. And really at Gaia, we believe that education has the power to transform the world. And really, we've seen that happen as countries have education systems. They develop more prosperity, they develop higher literacy, they develop more participation in the workforce, and generally it lifts an entire population, And the problem is that education and the media has become very heavily influenced by corporate interests because of an advertising-driven model which funds most of mainstream media. And more people are becoming aware of this and waking up to the fact that most of the media that they are consuming is actually putting them into a state of anxiety and fear and stress. And this is somewhat orchestrated because under those states, we become less intelligent and we buy more things. And this feeds sort of one version of capitalism that exists in the world. And we really believe that by providing conscious, heavily curated edutainment, let's say, to our audience, which is a member-supported organization, we can help to elevate their consciousness, to help them experience a greater quality of life, whether that's improving health or improving stress or improving their relationships, or even just becoming more aware about the systems that we operate within this world and being a higher level player in this sort of matrix of life. And that this is really an opportunity we want to offer more people and create a conscious community. And a lot of times we use this word consciousness or expanding consciousness, which is very much the goal of Gaia, and it can be confusing. So if I may break it down a little bit, a simple way to think about it is energy and frequency. So low consciousness or low energy or low frequency is like fear, greed, jealousy, despair, frustration, lack, etc., anger. Higher level frequency, higher level vibration, higher level consciousness is like love, compassion, unity, oneness, connection. And so to help more people move up the scale to these higher states of vibration, that creates a higher resonant frequency, which we believe en masse can help move humanity forward into a brighter future.
That is so inspiring, so optimistic. And I have to say, it seems like such a terrible challenge nowadays, because it's not just media companies or traditional media companies that seem to be encouraging anxiety and all the terrible feelings people have. It's sort of the setup of much of society now, social media and the way that people interact with each other. So how do you even go about really addressing that?
Well, one of my friends in the space, Blue, talks about this idea that, the most important currency that we have now is our attention, and there's a huge competition for our attention. Even Netflix publicly speak to this idea that they're competing with sleep. And I think that the way that we apply our attention intentionally can really change our experience of life, because how one experiences life is really a matter of perception. Humans are a very unique animal. We have the opportunity to, say, focus the lens or focus our aperture to shift our perception of our reality. Now, if we are consuming a lot of negative media, a lot of sadness, witnessing a lot of death, pain, destruction, and not to say that these things don't exist in the world and that we shouldn't be sheltered from them, we can tend to be in a more negative state, a more negative bias towards opportunities, and it can put us into a victim mentality, and this can cause us to experience a lesser quality of life than is possible. And the opposite is true as well. And so I think more and more people are waking up to this idea. We've gone through a big shift in consciousness around food, and many more people are aware that if I eat deep fried food, if I eat too much gluten, or if I eat too much processed refined dairy, I'm going to feel horrible. And so I don't want to do that anymore because I've done it, I feel it. So that feedback loop starts to strengthen that neural pathway. And I believe that more people are waking up to the fact that the more that they screen suck or they're on negative news outlets or they're doing this, they start to feel horrible. They feel more negative. And so they're starting to make this connection, and there's a desire to consume more independent, more open, more free, more inspirational media. And this trend will continue over time. And I believe that we're seeing, after some big events that have happened in the world over the past 3 to 4 years, a growing distrust for these structures of media that have existed with censorship and this corporate ownership of a lot of mainstream media. And this is causing some big shifts. We're seeing Rumble born out of this, which is an independently run and open platform. We're seeing Twitter go open, and I'm not commenting whether they're great or not. I think it's a move in the right direction. I'm just saying that there is a trend towards people being more and more open and desiring, conscious, curated media that's going to uplift their life and potential.
Now, from the outside, it does seem like the media, both social and traditional media space, are just so competitive, and that a lot of players in there don't like competition coming in with this. I'm curious, being in the role that you're in, how does it feel going up against some of these other players? Is it as it seems from the outside like that?
Well, I think I see it differently. I feel like that competition is an important part of commerce and trade, and that as people vote with their attention, they vote with their money, and they vote with their shopping trolley, right? And so as we empower individuals to have an impact on the world, we'll see more and more individuals making choices that support companies that are B Corp or giving back to the community, or that are providing services that really empower individuals. And I believe more and more people will continue to do that over time, and that the power will flow to the organizations that really focus on improving quality of life of the member, and less so of extracting value, which will become more and more obvious as time goes on.
Fantastic. Now that you are CEO of a public company, I'm curious, what are the biggest differences you're seeing between being a CEO at this level versus a CEO of startups where you were before, or smaller businesses?
Well, I mean, 2 things. One is, you're driving a tanker or a cruise ship and not a speedboat. So speed of change and innovation is a little slower. However, the capacity to make a bigger impact is much higher. You look comparatively at, annual ad spend, and as someone who's a, really passionate direct marketer and getting great ideas to people, having more capacity to be able to do that is definitely something that's powerful. I would say that team and structure and culture are bigger challenges, but also there's more fertile ground for impact. The capacity to make small culture shifts in a larger team can have a bigger, profound impact positively on the energy of the team and output. So I think that's another positive. And the velocity at a public company is just higher, and compliance and the regulation and compliance is a little different. But I have an incredible team to support me, and a very esteemed board to advise me, and a great mentor and executive chairman at the organization. So I feel very supported and really excited to push a new story of humanity forward.
When you were in your early days as an entrepreneur, did you ever think you would be running a company this large?
I always just had this feeling, and I think it's come up in multiple talks. I was with Aubrey Marcus the other day at a small event of his, and he said something about being all in for all life. All in for all life. And that really hit me. I was like, wow, that's profound. And I feel like the external role or capacity that I'm in will oscillate and change. And right now, I'm wearing the hat of a CEO of a public company. However, it's just a version of executing on this all in for all life mission, or this infinite game concept of using media as a power for good. And of course, I feel I have a lot to learn. I have great mentors and a great team. I have many passions and strengths and strong desires for Gaia as a brand and as a shareholder and as a board member. And I believe so much in the capacity of the team to execute on that goal. And I believe so much in the space. There's a huge potential for growth in this area, and I feel like it's ground zero. I think that energy medicine, frequency, meditation, vibration, biohacking, cold plunges, breath work, ecstatic dance, and using psilocybin assisted therapy or MDMA assisted therapy, these are going to be huge, huge, huge topics for an emerging trend and market, just like we saw the growth of organics and gluten-free and vegan and plant-based eating over the last 10 years, 15 years. And this next 10, 15 years, I can definitely see these as being huge trends, and the easiest, most efficient place to play in that story is to be an educator and an aggregator of content to support people in making better quality decisions. Because one of my early mentors said, with access to good quality information, people invariably make better decisions for their life and health. And that's really what we desire to do at Gaia.
I'm hearing two really valuable lessons for entrepreneurs from this. The first is what the advice from your mentor to be all in on life. And it sounds like you've been all in on anything that you're doing, recognizing that you're going to have different roles. You're going to be doing different things. So wherever you are, you're all in. It's kept building up to what you are now, or what you're doing now, the role that you have. But the role is built around something that you clearly have just an incredible drive and commitment to the purpose of, which is very similar to actually what I was talking with Sean Nelson a little bit earlier on, who was also a early entrepreneur back when he was younger, who created a public company, is CEO of it now. And he was also emphasizing the importance of being committed to that purpose, wherever it is and however you're fulfilling it. That's just led to the position that he's in. I'm noticing a similarity there. Yeah,
I feel very connected to him actually listening to his talk today. And it's this idea that you're the external viewpoint of where you're at in your journey will change and evolve over time, and there'll be ups and downs. But to have this focus of what you get out of life is really a result of the effort that you put in and the consistency at which you show up to execute on your soul's calling, your mission, whatever it is you feel called to do. I never really had on my vision board to lead a public company, and I don't think Sean did either. I think it was more about what's the next step on executing on this vision and mission, and that happened to be it for the two of us, and it's exciting to be here.
It's very exciting to see what you're doing and to be able to talk with you about this. 2 more questions. If you were to give advice to your younger self when you were starting out with all of this, what would it be?
Stick with it. Yeah, stick with it. Keep going. Also, don't underestimate where or what you can achieve in 10 years. I definitely feel that most entrepreneurs, well, I'll speak for myself, fall into a trap of overestimating what you can do in 1 year and underestimating what you can do in 10. And to be patient, I think, is a huge virtue. Public companies definitely demand like quick returns, and investors are on your heels about return on investment and return on invested capital. And as an entrepreneur, though, I think playing a long game is really important, and understanding that there will be vagrancies and variances in your returns each year, but that committing to a long game and being a fast learner and being willing to fail and pay dumb tax. You're going to make mistakes. I call it dumb tax. One of my advisors calls it dumb tax. And anytime you make a mistake, you write a big log of lessons from that mistake. You stick it on your refrigerator until it's baked in, and then there'll be another lesson, and you do the same. And the quicker you learn from your failures, the more successful you'll be.
Hear, hear.
Yeah.
Now, James, I always tell everyone, the most important thing you can do in business is to give value, or in life, frankly. Just give value to other people. And then especially if you want to connect with someone, you want to learn a new industry, you want to get involved in something, it's so much better to offer to help someone else out or to give them something than to make an ask of them to begin with. And so I'm curious if anyone listening to this is excited about what you're doing at Gaia or wants to learn from you or connect from you, what could be something that they could offer to you, that they would offer to give, that you would be excited about, or something they could do for you that would get you to respond to them?
Well, I love the idea. One of my friends, Joe Polish, wrote a book called What's in It for Them. It's a really great concept. And Tony Robbins, when I first went to one of his events, talked about this idea: if you want to create long-term success, you have to think about how much value you're adding to people's lives, really. And if I had to think about for value to me or to Gaia is the question, right? Interesting.
Go with both.
So I would say, one of the biggest opportunities that we have, I don't really speak in challenges, I speak in opportunities. It's sort of a frame shift. I don't use the word busy either, I use productive. So I use a lot of language in the way that I go about my life. One of the biggest opportunities we have is improving marketing efficiency and giving more of that back to our community. So if there's any experts in this space that want to help us grow Gaia or potentially be featured on the platform, would love to hear from them. And if we can create some sort of shared value experience and to create a win-win, that's what it's all about. I think business is about win-a-thons. And I believe that if we can create win on all levels, then it's good for the world, good for people, and good for the future of humanity.
What a great way to end. If we can create win-a-thons at all levels,
that's it.
It's better for everyone, better for humanity.
Yeah.
James, thank you for everything that you're doing, for being here, and for taking some time out to share this with the whole Liberty Ventures ecosystem.
Of course. Thank you, Alex.
Appreciate it.